Yeah. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome back after the Ben Azmanim break. I think, if I remember correctly, we finished off in the middle of Perek Zayin, chapter 7. So I'm very briefly, I think, going to go from the beginning of chapter 7 just to catch everybody up. Let's just put it into the context where we are now. Basically, as we said before, the Mesilas Yesharim already dealt with the midah of zehirut, which we variously translated it as watchfulness, a carefulness. The idea being that a person has to be watchful and careful not to transgress any of the negative mitzvahs of the Torah, and we spent several weeks going through those ideas. The next step up after that is, as it says in the Pasuk, Sur meira va'aseh tov, turn aside from evil and do good. The first step is a person has to stop what's wrong, and then he can move on to doing right actions. So zehirus, watchfulness, carefulness, not to transgress the Torah. After that comes zerisus, which means alacrity, doing mitzvahs quickly. And we spent quite a long time last week explaining on a deeper level why a person should do a mitzvah with alacrity, and we're going to go into that a little bit tonight as well. But let's start with chapter 7. Chelkei zerisus shnaim. There are two parts to zerisus. Echad hatchalas ha'ma'aseh. One is before the beginning of the action, va'echad achar kein. And the second part of zerisus, of alacrity, is after you've started the mitzvah. So kodem hatchalas ha'ma'aseh hu. So the beginning, the alacrity which is required before the mitzvah is shelo yachmitz ha'adam es ha'mitzvah, that a person shouldn't, so to speak, let the mitzvah become chometz, shouldn't become stale. Ela she'yagib zmano, but if the time for the mitzvah to be done, for example, Kriya Shema, a time-related mitzvah, which repeats every day, mitzvahs which repeat every day, some repeat every year, but whatever that is, there are certain mitzvahs which are time-bound, and therefore the time arrives for them, and you can't do them before that. Or a second category, his damnos lefonov, his damno lefonov, or if the mitzvah happens to literally take place in front of him, comes along to him. For example, okay, it's an extreme example. Let's say a person finds a dead body in the road, God forbid, and so he has now a mitzvah to bury that dead body. So that's not something which you could have known was going to happen. It's happening now. It occurred. It come across your path. So that's the second category of mitzvahs. Or ba'aloisa b'machshavto, or a mitzvah that is neither time-bound nor is something which just falls upon your way. It's something that you suddenly thought about. Wow, I could do that. I can do whatever that mitzvah is. Maybe you think of, just trying to think of an idea where that would suddenly comes to your mind that you could do a mitzvah. All right, maybe if you can think of something, you'll let me know. But there are certain mitzvahs which suddenly you realize that you're in a position to do a mitzvah. Let's say you're in a town and you suddenly realize your Rebbe's there. So you go, wow, I can go and visit my Rebbe. So, and it could be that's just on the Chagim, on the Yom Tov, so you have the mitzvah of seeing Pnei Rabbi, seeing your Rebbe on the Moed. I'm sure there are many other ideas where things suddenly arise in your mind. So, those three possibilities for a mitzvah to come in to him. So a person, Yimaher yachish ma'aseu le'echoz bo la'asos oso v'lo yaniach zman l'zman sheyarbe b'intayim. In other words, as soon as one of these things happen, either the time comes or the opportunity happens or the idea happens, the first part is to do it immediately. Don't hang around. Do not leave time between the possibility of doing the mitzvah and the commencing of the mitzvah. Ki ein sakana b'sakanoso, because there's no danger greater than that danger. Asher hine kol rega shemischadesh yuchal ischadesh eza ikuv la'aseh hatov. Every second that passes by is just another opportunity for something to come along to stop you doing that mitzvah. So you should do it straight away. But amitas hadova, and on the truth of this idea, Heirun Zichron L'Rocha Chazal have taught us in Bereshis Rabbah, Be'inyan Hamlochas Shloimoi, with the coronation of Shlomo, Shama David Lebinayahu, that David said to Binayahu, V'horaditem oisa el Gichon, take him down to the Gichon spring to be anointed. V'ana Binayahu, and he said, Amen, Kain Yoma Hashem. That's Hashem said. So Chazal comment on that. Rabbi Pinchas b'shem Rabbi Chanan the Tzipuri. So why did David HaMelech, chivi Benayu to take Shlomo down to the place where he would be crowned, coronated, anointed with the water? I'd already said in Divrei Yomim, V'nei bein nolad loch, that a son will be born to you, to David. Ish menucha, he'll be a man of tranquility, meaning he's going to be the king. So that's already, that's so to speak, predestined. Ela harbe kategorim le'amod mikan va'ad gichon. Ela, the idea is there are many prosecutors that stand between here and Gichon. A person always has, God forbid, the opportunity or the possibility, let's say, to lose a schus that he might have. And so, even though it may be predestined, or it may have been written that David HaMelech would have such a son, nevertheless, you can't leave it as it is. You have to make sure to do your best to chivvy it forward, to bring it forward as much as possible. Al-Ken Hisir Zichron L'Rocha, that's why Chazal warn us, advise us, Mechiltas is in Shmois, Ushmatem es ha-matzois, guard the matzahs, mitzvah haba-liyotcha al tachmitzena. And we darshan from that, al tikre matzos, don't guard the matzahs, rather guard the mitzvah from becoming chometz. So we spoke at length last time, if you want to go into that, on the morals, deeper understanding of what's going on there. But again, it's the same idea of alacrity. Whenever a mitzvah is possible, go do it straight away. So this is talking about the daughters of Lot, and that the Bechira, the elder one, went before the younger one, Lot's daughters, and the children they had from that union. We're not going to go into discussing about that now. Basically, even though that was incest, but in their case it was l'shem mitzvah and l'shem shemayim, because they understood that they were existing in a world which is basically like a post-nuclear Holocaust where there was nobody else to propagate the human race. So their intentions were l'shem shemayim, but because the Bechira, the elder one, went before, she preempted her sister, so to speak, so she was arba doires. There were 4 generations, and that came from her, from Moab, and they were Oived, Yishai, David, and Shlomo. And from that Seira, from the younger one, there was Rechavam, Shabame Isha Amonis. So Rechavam was an evil king. So we see that because of the zerisus of the older daughter, she was zeicha to the 4 generations, of whom 2 of whom were David and Shlomo. So these are examples now of how a person should be as quick as possible to do the mitzvahs. So Kidma Arba Doiros Bi Yisrael Lamalchus. She had 4 generations of kings. For Omru Zerizim Magdim Mitzvahs, we know it says in Pesachim, Zerizim, people who have alacrity will go forward quickly and do the mitzvah straight away. As it says, a person should always run to do a mitzvah afila b'Shabbos, and even on Shabbos, where a person should conduct himself with menucha, with rest, tranquility, repose. Nevertheless, on Shabbos you can run if it's a mitzvah. Midrash Omer, it says, Hu yanagenu al mus. How does he translate that, by the way? You have an English one there? He will guide us al mus. Al mus is a drosha which talks about, where do I have it here somewhere? Al mus.
It just says al mus.
Al mus. Okay, you're right. So I don't feel so bad then that he doesn't translate it either. Al mus is tofafos. These are menagois betof. These are like young girls who play on a tof, on a tambourine. It's a kind of musical instrument. And the point is, I think he brings it over here, almus, yeah. But it's the idea is zerisus, again, the idea with alacrity, ki ilain al ulemto. Like a young girl whose way is to jump and to run. That's the way a person should be, his conduct should be in his zerisus, his alacrity to go to do a mitzvah. Again, all of these pasukim are really illustrating the same point. He's just bringing sources from Chazal and from Tanakh. So it says betoch almus tovsos. That's what we said before, that they betochim with these young girls who would play these tambourines. That's in Tehillim. Ki zerisus he midas shleimus godel, because zerisus is it's an interesting. I want to examine this in some detail, because zerisus is a midah, is a characteristic, a character trait of great shleimus, a great perfection. Al asher tivoi shel adam, which the nature of a person mona prevents him from doing this now. U mishim is gaber, and somebody who dominates, rises up and dominates, v'tofes bo, grabs hold on to this meter of zerisus, of alacrity. Kol ma sheyochel, as much as he's able to do, hinei la osid lavo, in the world to come, yizker lo be'emes, he will merit it in truth, in the world of truth. Asher haboyri yisborach yitna lo, will give him b'scharo chelef ma sheishtadel. Hashem will reward this person in direct proportion to his effort which he displayed in trying to achieve this midah. Bizman avotoso, at the time when he was doing it. Now this is this is an interesting idea. What is the idea here? We spoke last time we met that this idea the reason why we need to do a mitzvah in the quickest, of course not rushing it, but in a way which is the least time-bound possible, is that everything that Hashem does is beyond time. The Torah, the first word of the Torah, Bereshis, hints to the fact that Hashem was bara reshis. He created beginning. Time is a creation as much as space is a creation. Time, science understands now that it's a continuum. It's really the same thing. But just as this world is a creation, so time is a creation. Hashem exists beyond time. And therefore, because the Hashem, the word mitzvah, by the way, I think we mentioned this before, there's a kind of gematria called atbash. Atbash really speaks out what it means. At, aleph, taf, base, shin. Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet, taf is the last letter of the alphabet. Base is the second letter of the alphabet, and shin is the second to last letter of the alphabet. So there's a certain gematria, a certain numerological way of expressing deeper understandings by the reversing of any particular letter with its corresponding letter, meaning Aleph becomes Tov, Tov becomes Aleph, Beis becomes Shin, Shin becomes Beis, etc., etc., etc. Now, if you take the word mitzvah, Mem, Tzadi, Vav, and Hey. So, the Atbash of Mem, you can check if you want, is Yud, and the Atbash of Tzadi is Hey. So essentially, Hashem's name, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, is hinted to in the word mitzvah. And just like the Mem and the Tzadi don't reveal Hashem's name openly, but at the end, that's what we're hinting to. In Olam Haba, so the alacrity that a person used to do this mitzvah in a godly way, so to speak. Again, the idea is when you do a mitzvah in a time-bound fashion, in a laggardly fashion, what happens is you put the mitzvah under the aegis, under the command, so to speak, into the category of something called time. And time, as we said before, is something which is not a Kodesh Baruch Hu dik. Why are we supposed to do the mitzvahs quickly? Because they are godly things, and to the extent that we do them in a way which is as much as we can. Of course, we live in a world where time is a factor, but to the degree that we try to remove the element of time from them, so they stay with their pristine connection to Hashem. So when a person does a mitzvah, Mem Tzadi Vav Hey, so the Mem Tzadi, the hidden part of Yud and Hey of Hashem's name, which will become revealed in Olam Haba, becomes revealed to a greater degree, the greatest degree possible, to the extent, as he says, that a person labored, given the restraints of this physical world, to rise above the world of time and to do that mitzvah in its purest, most pristine way. So that's the deeper understanding of what he's saying here. That is why it's a midah, it's a zerisus is a midas, a shleimus gadol, of great shleimus, perfection. Why? Because the ultimate shleimus, perfection, is a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So when a person does this zerisus in the quickest, in the mitzvah in the least time-bound way possible, this connects it back to the shleimus contained in that mitzvah, shleimus gadol. And asher tivu shel adam, and he's adding something else now. The nature of a person prevents him from doing this. The nature of a person is to man, adam in offer. Man is a creation from dust. The nature of a person left to himself is to sink down like the dust, to be inert. The idea of alacrity is inimical to the physical part of a human being. It's true, and we'll speak about this later, that the soul is compared to a flame which seeks to ascend. The soul wants to go up. But the man is a synthesis, an uncomfortable synthesis in some ways, of the spiritual and the physical. And the physical wants repose, the physical doesn't want to get out of the bed, the physical wants to bang the snooze button. And therefore the basic nature of a person is to be earthly, quite literally, to be inert, and it's only with great effort that he can rouse himself and get his body to rise up above this and do the mitzvah. And of course, we said most of the mitzvahs are physical, so, and we come to that as well. And anybody who grabs onto this idea of zerisus, of alacrity, and as much as he's able, why as much as he's able? Because he'll never be able to be perfectly attuned to something which is beyond this world, which is beyond time. That only Hashem can do. But as much as he's able to do that, so therefore, hinei la'asid lovo, in the world to come, that mem tzadi, that hidden part of Hashem's name, the mem and the tzadi, yizker lo be'emes, he will be zocha, to the extent that he made that effort to be connected to that mitzvah, to be dovuk, to be stuck, to be in the greatest possible way. And that's all going to be based on his effort. Being that he's not able to achieve that total lack of time in his actions. But in the world to come, which has no time, So therefore, that effort will translate into a reality. Asher hobari yisborach nitnalo, because Hashem is going to give him b'scharo as his reward, chelef ma sheishtadel, the equivalent of his effort which he put into his work. Now there's another concept here which I'm not sure I'm going to go into now, but maybe we'll mention it briefly. Chazal teaches schar mitzvah. The mitzvah, the reward for a mitzvah is a mitzvah. So an understanding of this, a basic understanding is that if a person does a mitzvah, Hashem gives him the opportunity to do another mitzvah. On a deeper level, there's an understanding that the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. Why is that a reward? We live in a world where we see the action of doing a mitzvah and the reward for that mitzvah as being two different things. For example, we see it as somebody works very hard and at the end of the week he gets his paycheck. This is not what the reward of Olam Haba is. In a sense, there's nothing in the world to come which does not exist in this world. And that's why it's called Olam Haba. If you think about it, the corollary of Olam Hazeh means this world. So the corollary of this world should be Olam Ha-Hu, that world. This world, that world. But we see Chazal talk about Olam Hazeh, about Olam Haba, and the world to come. Why is it the world to come? The Rambam says, because the world to come, comes directly and is, in point of fact, identical to this world, revealed on a higher level. It's not chapter 1 and chapter 2. Everything you're doing now will be, all of your actions will be revealed in Olam Haba. All of your mitzvahs, as we said before, there will be a revelation. It's like a replay of everything that you did in this world, but as it really is, the internality of it. Is there a chumash here? Yeah. This is an idea which really we see right at the beginning of the Torah. When Hashem creates the fruit trees, yeah. So on the third day, and it says, V'yom Elokim, God said to Tadshe ha'aretz desha esev, let the ground sprout forth with grasses, mazriya zera, seed, making seed, eitz pri ose pri. Eitz pri, which means a fruit tree, ose pri, making fruit. Now, when the earth actually fulfills that commandment of Hashem, it says, "V'totze aretz desha esev mazriya zera lemineu v'eitz oseh pri." You hear the difference? Eitz pri oseh pri, that's what Hashem commanded, becomes eitz oseh pri. Chazal teaches that the eitz pri oseh pri, what's an eitz pri? That's an eitz where the taste of the tree was the same as the taste of the fruit. Nowadays, if you eat the tree, you will taste bark, you will taste wood. But the original commandment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was it should be an eitz pri oseh pri. And what do we have? We have a world of eitz oseh pri. Now on a deeper level, what this means is in the world, the Hashem, before the creation, and why it was that the land, the earth did not fulfill Hashem's command as it was, that's a whole other subject, I can't go into that now. But the ideal creation was supposed to be an eitz pri oseh pri, a fruit tree, where the fruit tasted of the tree. Before the Chet of Adam Arishon, which is connected to this, a person, nowadays, let's say, take it like this. You put on tefillin in the morning, right? Now, you know putting on tefillin on the morning is a good thing. And you feel good about the fact that you're doing something which is good. But you don't feel suffused with this supernal, glowing, overpowering spiritual feeling of, like this huge jolt of spirituality. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. I don't. But we live in a world of Eitzei Sapri, where our mitzvahs are dry like wood. We do them as actions, but we have no tam, we have no taste of what they really are. Really, before the Chet Avodah Rishon, a mitzvah, you could live the Olam Haba, so to speak, in the Olam Hazeh. The schar, the action and the reward were identical. As we said before, we tend to think of, you do the action, you get the reward. But no, it's really, that's only because we live in a world of concealment, where we don't see that reward, we don't sense it. We know we're doing something right, fine, but really ideally, and that's what it means Olam Haba, in the world to come, we will experience all of those dry physical actions like putting on tefillin. But we will experience them in the way they really are. That's what it means, schar mitzvah. The reward for a mitzvah is the experiencing the internality of the mitzvah as it really is, the taste of that mitzvah, the eitz pri oseh pri. We'll experience the fact that the action was really the reward in itself. The sweetness of the reward is the doing of the action. That's what he means. That's what we're talking about. A person will be zoicha to this zerisus, even though in this world he's doing something which he knows to be a good thing. He's overcoming his natural physical heaviness. But the actual experiencing of the sweetness of that zerisus, of that alacrity, will only be when the mitzvah is revealed in Olam Haba, when the mem and the tzadi finally become the yud and the hey. And the yud and the hey and the vav and the hey, of course, is the Kodesh Baruch Hu's name. Okay. So, really, all I've done so far is really to get us to where we got to at the end of last month. But that's okay. So what have we said? There are two parts to this zerisus, two parts to alacrity. One is the alacrity to commence the mitzvah, either because the time comes for it, the opportunity presents itself to you, or you think about doing it. Now the second part of the mitzvah, which is in a way more important in a sense, and we'll see why, is after the mitzvah has been started, do as much as you can to finish it as soon as possible. Let's look inside. But the alacrity which is required after the beginning of the action of the mitzvah, seeing as you've started to do the mitzvah, you should endeavor to complete it as quickly as possible. And not to be like lenient, or I don't know, there's a better word, not to be light, and treat it lightly. But not in the sense that you should finish it as quickly as possible, to be like, to get it out of the way. To like make it very easy on yourself, like somebody who's trying to just get it done and push it off as soon as possible. Ella, why should you do it as quickly as possible with the greatest dispatch? Is also because a person should be in fear, pen lo yizker ligmor oisam, because maybe you won't get the chance to finish this. Let's say you start to gather money for tzedakah, you want to write a Sefer Torah, and you start writing the Sefer Torah. So of course you're not allowed to rush, but you shouldn't leave it as it is, because you want to finish the mitzvah. It's a very important thing to finish a mitzvah once you've started it. Chazal go to great lengths to warn us about this. Anybody who begins a mitzvah and he doesn't complete it, he buries his wife and his children. It's very, 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 very stark, very strong, very frightening. This has to be understood. What's the connection between not finishing a mitzvah and, God forbid, burying your wife and your children? So, this is based on the Maharal in the Sivas Shalom, the Sifa Torah Perek Yud Ches. That this is a question of Mida Keneged Mida. Mida Keneged Mida means measure for measure. Why? Sha'isha ha'shleimus ha'odam. A wife is the shleimus of a man, of a person. A man who doesn't get married lives without bracha, lives without tov. So a person who doesn't have a wife or loses his wife, God forbid, he is lacking in completion. V'habonim heim hakiyum shel ha'odam b'bria la'olam. And the children of a person are his hemshech, or his continuation throughout the generations. Somebody who starts a mitzvah and he doesn't complete it, the mitzvah is not therefore, existing in the world. It doesn't have a kiyum. And therefore, b'mida k'meged mida, it's taken from him his continued existence in the world, which are his children. So that's the idea here, that it's a kind of a person, when a person starts a mitzvah, he brings it into existence, but he doesn't finish it, so it's lacking. The fact that he was not mashlim, this creation in the world of the mitzvah, means that his shleimus is taken away from him, which is his wife, and his hemshech, his continuation in the world, which is his children, are taken away because he didn't give the mitzvah the ability to exist, to continue. And it says, Eina mitzvah nikres ela al shem goimro. A mitzvah is attributed to the person who finishes it, not the person who started it. How do we see this? Because it says in Yoshua, Ve'es mitzvahs Yosef asher ha'alu b'nei Yisrael. The bones of Joseph, which the children of Israel brought up from Egypt. But it was Moshe who brought up the bones of Yosef, right? Rather, because Moshe was decreed upon Moshe that he wouldn't enter Eretz Israel, and therefore that mitzvah was taken away from him. It wasn't called on his name. I mean, of course, he's not blamed for not being able to complete the mitzvah, because it wasn't through lack of his own. Hashem wouldn't, so to speak, let him finish the mitzvah. But nevertheless, it says in Yeshua, the bones of Joseph, not that Moses brought up, even though he instigated it, he started it. No, it's that the Klal Yisrael brought up from Egypt. Okay. Well, we'll go a little bit further. Shlomo Melech says, Chazisa ish mohir v'malachto lifnei melachim yitzatzev. Bal yitzatzev lifnei chashukim. So the same idea here. Have you seen a person who is quick in his work, of course the work of mitzvahs? He will stand in front of kings, and he won't be standing in front of lowly ones. Same idea. Chazal also say in Sanhedrin, Yichasu lo hashevach hazer al shimihem al beleches binyam bayis v'lo nis'atzel bo la'acha oisa. Yichasu lo hashevach hazer. The shevach, the praise. How did you translate that there? Yichasu lo hashevach hazeh. It's I write this in the other book. Yeah. This is talking about Shlomo HaMelech.
The stages of blessed memory.
Yeah.
By this praise to
Shlomo HaMelech, right. Al Shemi here, because he was alacritous in the building of the Beis HaMikdash, Melechus Beis HaMikdash, v'lo nis'atzel bo la'acha oisa. And he wasn't slaggardly about it, wasn't lazy about doing it. So Shlomo HaMelech was the Chochem Mikol Odom. He was the wisest of all people. And it's impossible to measure his level, how exalted his level as a person was. That's not something which we as people, mortal people, can even conjecture of the level he was standing on. But nevertheless, he is singled out, his praise is singled out in as much as that he did things with zerisus. You hear what he's saying here? It's a beautiful idea. This is, I think, from Rav Volbe. That Shlomo Melech had all the milas in the world, all the praiseworthy attributes in the world, all of them. He was the wisest of all men. And what does he singled out to be? What was the midah that he had that was singled out? That he was alacritus in the building of the Beis HaMikdash. So we see from that how important, if that's what Shlomo Melech at the end of the day was praised for, we see how dear and how important the midah of zerisus is. Let's just go to the end of this paragraph. Yeah, that's in Sanhedrin. V'chein timtza kol ma'asem shel tzadikim tomid b'mehirus. You'll see all the actions of the tzadikim were always done in this way. Avram, Ksiv says by Avram Avinu, v'yamahe Avraham ho'ela el Sarah v'yoma mahari. Avram Avinu, if you remember when he had guests, he didn't realize they were malachim. He rushed, he hurried into the tent to tell Sarah to prepare for them food. And it says, v'yitel alana v'yamaher, talking about the chinuch of, to be machanech Yitzchak in mitzvahs. Rivka, imenu, it says by her, v'tamaher v'ta'a kado. Remember when she Rivka brought the camels to her hakad, what's it called, a jug to water the camels of Eliezer. So we see that she did it, v'tai, she emptied it, she did it b'zerisus. V'chein omer in the Medrash and Bamidbar, u'tamaher isha, and this is the mother of Shimshon. Malamisha kol ma'asem shal tzadikim. This is where she rushed back to her husband after, I think it was Eliyahu Hanavi came to her to announce the fact she was going to give birth to Shimshon. And actually, her husband's name was Manoach, but her name was actually never mentioned in. We don't know what the name of Shimshon's mother was. Being as it may, we see that she was praised for the quickness of which she went back and reported what the Malach had said to her about her bearing a Shimshon. All the actions of the tzaddikim are with alacrity. They do not allow a pause or an interruption of time, neither when talking about the beginning of the mitzvahs, and nor when referring to their completion. Okay, I think we'll leave it here, and Bezrat Hashem will pick up next week.